guys, first of all, it is obvious in today's real estate market that you have got to be getting more listings. There's a massive shortage of inventory out there in the real estate market right now. Smart agents are listing homes as fast as they can. I'll use my son as an example. 150 listings last year alone, not counting his team. I think he's the number one listing agent in the country right now. But why? The real question is why? Why am I giving him the advice that he needs to be 100% focused on listings? Because the inventory is not coming up anytime soon. We can't build houses fast enough. The affordability isn't getting any better anytime soon. And so the people that have pipelines filled with people that have homes to sell, they're just maybe waiting for that interest rate to come down a little bit because they're sitting on a 3% interest rate. And why would I move if I got 3% on my current house? I'm waiting to move. Well, guess what? At some point in time, they're going to move, whether the interest rates come down or not. And you've got to have that pipeline. You got to be in position to be able to capitalize on that. And so one of the guys that I know in the industry that is as good or better than anyone out there at not just getting listings for himself, but at getting his team to get listings. Now, this is a very important key, right? Because, like with Austin's going out there and he's in the grind. He's going out there getting stuff himself. But let me tell you about Ryan Young. Ryan Young, consistently 500 transactions a year for the last 4 years. Now, I will say he faltered a little bit this last year, kind of sucked this last year, only had 67 transactions this last year.
It was a rough one.
A pretty rough year, man. Don't get me wrong. You can still clip coupons, man. There's always, there's always the Walmart blue plate special. Like, you're going to be all right. But no, I'm just giving him a hard time. I know most people watching this are probably thinking, man, I'd love to have 467 transactions closed in the last 12 months. But Ryan Young is both a really, really high producing real estate agent. And by the way, who's not even in production. His team is doing the vast majority of that production. And he also owns a company called Fellow, whose mission it is to help people get more listings and to help you get those listings sold. So Ryan, I've had you on before. I'm stoked that you're here again. You always bring a ton of value. And so I just, first of all, thank you for being on. But I want to just open the door wide open for you and say, Ryan, what do we got to do to get more listings and stop paying so freaking much money to these portals? They're just taking money hand over fist from our agents. How can we help our agents be more profitable in this process?
Yeah. So thank you. I'm always excited to chat with you because you're just brilliant in so many different ways. But I'm going to challenge everyone really quickly. Like the Young team last year, we went on, I think, 625 listing appointments, right around there, 600 to 625 listing appointments. We have 15 agents. I've been out of production for 4 years now. And we ended up taking about 375 of those listings. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to challenge each and every one of anyone that's watching this or that's watching this in the future. If your conversion on a listing appointment is at like 80 to 90%, you're not going on enough listing appointments. Okay. And I think so many people are so proud of what their listing conversion is from appointment set and held to agreement signed. I'm going to challenge you and say that's BS. You're not going on enough listing appointments because ultimately you're not getting into enough doors. You're not pushing hard enough to set appointments. You're probably copping out when someone's saying I'm already working with an agent or with my cousin's going to list the home. And so, I just want to start right out of the gate of saying, like, if you're coming in and saying, look, I list 75%, 80% of the listing appointments I go on, that's a challenge. That's great, right? For the appointments, you need to have two buckets, like the appointments you should be getting because it's sphere of influence, friends, family, past clients. And then you need a bucket of I'm going to battle. I'm doing everything I can to get myself in the door. Once I get myself in the door, I'm going and doing everything I can to articulate value and understand what true pain points are and help you accomplish a goal. So I just want to throw this out there of like the listing game is so much more transactional to the seller that it is not just relational. Oh, you're my best friend. Let's list my house. And one of the things I love about Austin, and I think he's such a beast, is you don't list 150 homes a year by friends and family wanting to sell their homes with you. You do everything you can to find ways to get into prospective sellers' homes and show them the value of how it makes financial sense for them ultimately to list with you. And then you deliver and then they refer more people. And so I just want to go out there and lay that out before we even start talking about how. I think think that's super important.
I got to jump on that, Ryan, because I freaking love what you just said. And by the way, with Austin, he's 22 years old. He doesn't have a sphere of influence that's buying.
He doesn't have exactly.
Right. Like his friends can't afford houses yet. But check this out. What you just said, I'm hearing agents are, by the way, I want to touch on Patrick Morales made a great comment. He's like, only 467. Does he have a GoFundMe account so we can help him out? I know, right? Anyway.
I'll take it. I'll take anything I can get. It was a rough year.
Patrick's a great friend of mine down in Houston, Texas. Great lender down there. Anyway, that being said, what you're talking about sounds like, you've got to be aggressive with people. And I want to help people understand. We're not talking about being aggressive with people. We're talking about being very aggressive with the process. And
the strategy.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because most people, to your point, when somebody says, oh, I'm going to list it with my cousin, or, oh, I've already picked an agent or whatever, most people give up right there. That's why you're broke. Right. Guys, if you want to stop being broke, you can't take no for an answer. Like, you've got to start being willing to say, hey, wait a minute. Are you really going to use that person? Like, is there really a reason why you have to use that person? Or would you be open to using somebody else if I could get you a better result? Like, you've got to go deeper with people. This notion of the second they throw up a roadblock, I'm going to turn tail and run is weak agent 101.
One of the things that, Fellow has created over a million seller leads out of people's databases in the past 2 years and works with, 20,000 agents. And one of the things that I do all these agent trainings and, these team trainings. And, Fellow does a lot of home value leads, also cash offer, also CMA requests. And when they call the prospect every time, 99% of the time, when they say, I'm curious, are you considering buying, selling, or refinancing? The prospect always says, I'm just curious, right? And I explain this on these trainings, and I'm like, 99% of people are going to say this, all right? You're on notice, 99%. And yet you still get off the phone every time they say it, being like, okay, well, if I can ever be of help, let me know. I'll be here for you. Okay, don't hesitate to reach out. And you get off the phone. What Fellow started doing a year and a half ago was we started showing you every address in your database that actually is listing their home and who they're listing with in real time. And so what we started to see were these people that were telling us they were just curious, quote unquote, ended up listing their home like 60 days, 90 days, 30 days later. And so you have to push past the I'm just curious question. You have to go deeper. And, I have some different talk tracks that have done really well. Everyone kind of
throw them out. Let's hear a couple of them.
So, Michael, I can totally understand that you're just curious. And, I'm just curious if there was an opportunity to sell your home, even if it was off market and it made financial sense, would you be open to looking at an offer?
Yeah, I'd probably consider it.
I'd love it. Now watch this. This is the biggest mistake salespeople make. You do not say, great, when can I come over to your house? I'll bring listing paperwork, right? You say, that's so incredible. Where would you go if you accepted the offer?
Oh, we'd probably move up to the mountains.
Oh, I love it. When ideally would you like to be there?
Sometime this year would be great. Anytime before the end of summer would be great.
Right now, I just once again, lead generation for sellers is about building a pipeline of prospective sellers, whether it's in the end of the year, it's in 3 months, it's in 3 years. But you have to ask that question of, if there was an opportunity, would you look at that offer? All we're trying to do is get them to say yes to it. That invites us to go much deeper into discovery. And the discovery is where we find all the motivation. A lot of people say, I'd be open to it, but there's nothing for sale on the market. Well, what are you looking for, right? I'd be open to it, but my kid's a junior and he's not graduating for 2 years. And once he graduates, great. I'm going to still be selling real estate in 2 years. The seller pipeline game, the listing game is not if you are planning on selling right now, it's identifying every homeowner in your database and identifying when they would be open to selling, when they would be. And that's a key component. If you talk to enough people, a lot of people are saying, well, but that doesn't help me get listings now. No. If you talk to enough people, you're going to identify some of them want to sell. They need to sell now. And you're going to identify some of them don't need to sell now, but they're going to need to sell in or want to sell in a couple years or whenever it may be. If you do this every single day, before you know it, you have such a big pipeline of homeowners. You're not worried about interest rates or who wins the election or what's happening with the FCC and the TCPA and all these different things. You have this big pipeline. You become very predictable in your business and you can forecast exactly what your business looks like. And that's how we've been. So, we have 15 agents and we don't We're not Zillow Flex people. We're not RDC. We're not homes. We're not any of these different things. And if you're doing those, that's great. But if you can figure out ways to sell that type of per agent productive, 35-ish homes per year per agent within your organization, we're about 60+% listings. It's a very profitable model. And that's what I want for our entire industry.
I was literally just going to say that is, by giving away from the portals, you're running a much more profitable business. Guys, you've heard me say this before. I've coached some of the top Zillow Flex agents around the country, some of the top RDC agents in the country. And I'm telling you right now, most of those guys on that part of their business are running about a 4% margin. It's not worthwhile. Now, to your point, Ryan, I want to talk about this pipeline. Because so many people, say, oh, but I got to have business now. I got to have business now. Well, then pick up the freaking phone, right? Like you cannot, we need all the technology. We need the AI to help us be more efficient. We need the technology to help us nurture leads. There's a lot of things technology can do for us. We need social media to make sure we're, staying out there and branding ourselves on social media, consistently bringing value, getting more touches with our sphere. All of that is very important. But nothing replaces the value of you picking up the phone and having a conversation with somebody voice to voice and nurturing that pipeline of voice to voice. Now watch this. Let's say, and by the way, Ryan would agree with me here. Here's a guy who owns a technology company that helps you nurture that pipeline. And Ryan, would you agree that we've got to actually speak to people?
100%. I literally joke with people and I tell them, remember, Fellow works with the best of the best, 20,000 agents and, 20,000 users in less than 2 years. So we have a pretty large sample size of what's working and what's not. And when I talk to prospective agents and I say, look, Fellow is not going to be a good fit for you if you want us to call the agents for you or call the sellers for you and go on the appointments for you. We'll do the rest. We'll get them to raise their hand. We'll engage. We'll show you who's most likely to sell. We'll enrich them with a bunch of data. We'll show you who's listing and who's not. We'll show you when they move and find their new address. But ultimately, if you want us to call them for you and you want us to go on the appointment, I can't do that, right? And if I did do that, I'd be taking 70% of your commission and you'd have 30%. It's like, there's just, you got to take and own it. There's got to be a responsibility and ownership to at least being able to pick up the phone and at least being able to go on the appointment and actually do what we do best. And the funny thing is, when I built the young team, I built it around a specialist model. And we started this about 15 years ago. There was only listing agents and there were buyer agents, right? Now we still have listing agents, but we started to bring the buyer agents in to be able to list their own homes. We have a transaction coordinator.
Hold on, stop right there. So what you mean is, if it's somebody from their sphere of influence, they can list it. But if they want your listing leads, they've still got to be a full-time listing agent. If they got to be
a full-time listing agent. Listing agents, it's a minimum of 50 homes per year. You have to be able to close. You have a certain conversion expectation. You have all kinds of requirements, right? Like our real estate consultants are also highly productive, but they like working with buyers. They like relational. They get the buyer opportunities when they come into our team, but only when seller opportunities come into our team, they only go to listing agents, the people that are role playing every week, that are on our listing consultation role plays, that are on all these different educational based things that we focus on at the young team. And so it's one of those things that it's like, if you are not thinking through the lens of, what do I need to do as an agent to get into as many homes as possible, but ultimately to become as refined as possible on my skill set of actually converting them at the highest level, you're going to really struggle. And so with all these different these big teams on these, lead generation tools, it's like a lot of them say, well, I'm doing it right now to build my database, and long term, it's going to ultimately convert into listing opportunities after I sell them the home in 5 years from now and 6 years from now. I'll use all this AI technology. You're going to lose them, right? Like they're going to end up transacting with someone else who actually has a brand, who actually is communicating with them. And so while I think that there's so much great AI technology and so much great automation, you're really going to miss out if you think that that's ultimately going to help you close more business. You need to focus on skill set and leverage the technology to ultimately make you more efficient, to be able to have more conversations with people. But if you don't do it, you're you're going to really struggle, and it's why, I always like to talk about it. Last year, I did the 30-day listing challenge where I set 30 listing appointments in 30 days. I did it personally. I recorded all the calls. I put them all on my social media. I did live calls in front of my team. If you don't have that skill set, if you're not comfortable going in front of your team and making live phone calls and talking to sellers, right? And these aren't warm leads. These are people in your database that maybe are opening emails, but like, these are not people that are raising their hands saying, I want to sell my house. If you're not comfortable doing that, your number one priority right now needs to be focusing on your skill set and focusing on the confidence of being able to call homeowners and set those appointments and get in front of them and show and articulate the value of what you bring to the table. And I think that you need to take ownership as a leader within this industry of, taking extreme ownership and saying that needs to be one of my biggest priorities.
Well, you were talking about the whole building and nurturing this database and how, again, sometimes some will close now, sometimes some will close a year, 2, 3, 5 years from now. To your point, you get better at this the more you do it, right?
All day.
Not only do you get better, but and by the way, your conversion rates will improve, right? And I'm talking about conversion on cold appointments. If you're not converting 85% of your sphere of influence, you really suck at this, right? I mean, let's be real about this. But we're talking about cold appointments, FSBOs, expireds, cold call, whatever, in cold lead sources. You should be, you should be able to get to a point where you can close 85% of those. If they list it with somebody, they should list it with you, right?
Yeah.
That being said, to your point, if your conversion ratio is 85%, now you're probably not going on enough appointments. But watch this. Let's look at some real numbers. You were talking about Austin earlier. His numbers in 3 years ago, back in 2022, when he was brand new in the business, he did 97 listings year one, right? He did the exact same activities the following year. And I'm talking 4 hours a day of prospecting, exact same activities the following years, didn't change, listed just over 120 listings. Did the exact same activities year 3, over 150 listings. And this is not.
And this was what was year 3, 2022? Year
3 was this last year, 2024. So year 1 was 2022, 23 was year 2, 24 was year 3.
Wasn't home sales down about 20%?
26 so it's like 38% depending on the market.
Yeah. So it's like, so not only was he becoming more efficient, but he had more headwinds of, what he was going against. And that's that much more impressive when so many people are going backwards. He's accelerating, right?
But why? That's what I want to highlight with this is what you were talking about is there's 2 reasons why. Number 1 is because his database is continually getting bigger and they're touching their database. They use Fellow, for example, right? So they're using Fellow, they're using technology in every way they can, and they're making the calls. And this is just him. I'm not even giving you his team's numbers, but he's making those calls 4 hours a day, every day, 5 days a week. And so these people are getting to know him. Right? He's building a relationship with these people. And whether they buy today or they buy 3 years from now, that relationship is going to cause them to very likely at least give him the at bat. Then, because he's going on so many listing appointments on a regular basis, 2 things are happening. Because he's making all these calls, guess what? His skill set on the phone is getting better and better and better every day. Now, because he's going on the appointments, his skill set on the appointment is getting better and better and better every day. Really where I'm going with this is there's no shortcut. Now, Fellow can really help, right? And by the way, this call isn't a big pitch for Fellow, but I'll tell you guys, like if you're using Fellow, and it just happens to be Ryan's product, but if you're using Fellow, it can help you at the back end to stay engaged with people and to identify people that are ready now and that are raising their hands. You getting voice to voice and getting comfortable with those conversations to the point that you could sit in front of your team like Ryan was talking about, or get on a webinar with me or with Ryan and just literally be willing to do phone calls live on Facebook in front of a bunch of people. You get to that point, game over. You're going to get so good. Your efficiency and your conversion rates are going to go through the roof.
Here's the best part about it with what he's doing and what we all should be, emulating basically what he's demonstrating is when I talk to you, if you're doing this consistently for 4 hours a day, let's just start, do it 1 hour a day, right? Then build your muscle to get to 2 hours a day. And then we'll get to 3 hours a day. Then it'll become addicting from the success that you're having. But so I'm talking to you and as a seller, and I call you back up and I say, Michael, hey, it's Ryan with the Young Team. Hey, I know you said that you wanted to move to the mountains, and that's incredible. And I know you said you wanted to do so by the end of the year, but I was talking to a seller, a homeowner, who actually lives in that ideal location. I was just on the phone with them, and I know this is a little bit unconventional, but if I could find you an amazing opportunity that wasn't on market, so it wasn't visible to any other buyers, is that something that you'd want me to send over to you? Right. And what you end up, what ends up happening is the more homeowners that you start talking to, and when you get into discovery and ask them, where are you going after you sell? We're not just a robot and saying, do you want to sell your home? Yes or no? Yes. Great. I'll be over for an appointment. No. Okay. I'll never call you again. When you go deeper into discovery, all of a sudden, when you start talking to other homeowners, there's this network effect there, and it compounds, right? And so all of a sudden I can provide value to other sellers that I was talking to when I'm asking, where are you planning on going? When I start talking to other sellers on where they want to go. And then, I'm asking the seller in the mountains, I'm curious, where are you planning on going when you sell your home? Oh, you want to go to the city? Great. When you start lead generating consistently and you start thinking through this mindset of like, every person that I know that needs to sell a home that also wants to buy within my market, how can I connect the dots for them? When you want to talk about differentiating yourself in a highly competitive market, find them something that no one else found them. Right? They will be indebted to you where that listing is a shoo-in, right? You find them an opportunity that no one else brought to them. And I can promise you have an amazing shot at getting their listing as well. And then ultimately helping another, whoever's on the back end.
Ron, I'd even take that a step further and suggest that even if you don't find them that perfect house, the fact that you had the conversation about, hey, I'm going to be
100%.
looking for, right? Like all of a sudden you're different.
It goes so far. Yeah. The proactivity. Yep.
100%. I mean, it also makes such a difference.
And it shows you, it's one of those things that we sit down. One of the things that I am constantly preaching. The Young Team has a database of about 55,000 people. 45,000 of them are homeowners. We leverage Fellow. It's a big component of Fellow. But one of the things when we sit down with buyers, the first question we ask is, I'm curious, of all the other agents that you're talking to, or how many homes have you seen off market? And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, what's off market? And it's like, wait, you've never seen any inventory off market. You're only waiting for homes to come on the market and then reacting with all the other buyers, right? One of the values of working with the Young Team is, and I pull up our database and we type in Pepper Pike, we have 1,700 homeowners in Pepper Pike that have opened emails from us in the last 30 days. Tell me more about, we're looking for 3,500 square feet. All right, filters down. We're looking for 5 bedrooms, filters down. I've got, 130 homeowners in my database that meet all your criteria. One of the differences when you work with us is we're going to approach these people off market and see if your home would be a great fit for them. Now, the best part about it is you generate listings as a byproduct by proactively looking for homes for your buyers off market. Because when I'm calling Michael and saying, I know this is kind of random, but I'm working with a buyer. They've signed a buyer representation. They're totally financially qualified. They have complete flexibility in their timing. They want a home that's very similar to yours. And if there's an opportunity that made financial sense, would you be open to looking at an offer? Great, you would. Where would you go if you sold? And so do you see how this game keeps playing? And one of the things, the Young Team, we sell about 20% of our homes either off market or internally. Both our agents participate in the transaction, because one of the biggest missed opportunities within the real estate organization, the real estate industry, is over the past 10 years, it's been really in vogue to have a team, right? Yet we don't work as a team, right? We work as an organization of a bunch of individuals. The Young Team text is wild. Like, it is literally, hey, I just got another listing appointment. Who do we have? Hey, I just signed a buyer representation agreement. What sellers can we go find? We work together, and the byproduct of that is everyone ends up winning as individuals by all of us working together as a team.
Yeah.
I get all fired up on this stuff.
Well, no, because you're absolutely right, right? It's funny. Chris Heller and I, when we started building teams back in, oh my gosh, man, the early 90s, nobody's building teams. Jay Kinder was one of the ones that came along then. It was kind of him, me, Chris, and a couple others. And it was very few people across the country. And we were just kind of learning, like, what does this look like? And at first it was really, for us, it was more of a necessity because for us to continue to grow beyond our current capacity, we had to bring other people on to help with that. And it started off with assistants, and then it went from, we're going to bring on an assistant to now we need a transaction coordinator. Now, oh my gosh, I got so many leads. I can't, as an agent, handle all of this myself.
Right.
Now we had to start bringing other agents on. And so through necessity, we started growing these teams. Well, then, like to your point, about 10 years ago, teams become kind of the in vogue thing, right? Like the teams are making all the money, so I got to have a team, right? If I don't have a team, I'm not really serious about this business, right? So everybody starts going and starts building these teams. And the problem is that they started building them wrong. And they built them around weak ideologies. And what I mean by this is, example, hey, if I give the best splits, I can get more people on my team. Right. And so we saw, particularly in California, I love it in California. Oh, if I give them a 70% split, then, I'll get more people to want to be on my team, and I'll give them all these leads, and I'll give them blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you get all these team leaders that start going under, and they can't, they're not making
no margin.
There's zero margin, right? And there's no reason for that team leader to continue to be a team leader. They were better off as a solo agent. And so they start getting disillusioned on teams because they think the model doesn't work. No, you just went with, you selected some things within the model that didn't work. And
young team cost of sale last year. Sorry to interrupt. I just think it's super important. Young team cost of sale last year was 44%, right? Which means that ultimately 56% to the young team, 44% to the agent. And a lot of our listing partners get 30%. And a lot of people are like, there's no way they'll stay. Our listing partners have all been with us for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. 8 times been with 10 years. We have a repeatable, we have very predictable ways to generate opportunities for them. They go on the listing appointment. They go there one time. They get paperwork signed. They turn it in, and they never go back to the house again. And then they go focus on more listings. And so the efficiency, the reason why it's 50 homes minimum for listing partners, it's the efficiency of the model, and the reason why it's the lowest splits, they're the highest earners on our team. And it's like the two are correlated. If you're focused on what is the net split, you're not the right fit for our team. If you focus on all the value and how we can help you actually build a real business and help you scale, we are the right fit. And we tell people as soon as we sit down with them, if anyone's in Cleveland, you can use this against us when it comes to recruiting, which I'm totally comfortable with. We have the lowest splits in all of Northeast Ohio. And it's not that we're proud of it. It's just we have not bent or deviated from what our splits are, because it allows us to invest in other things that provide more value. We are always about more value add versus a race to the bottom and saying, if I give you more, but I have very little to give you outside of the split, you're going to leave anyways. Might as well go be an individual agent. So it's something just philosophically that I think is really important. And also, Bob Corcoran, a coach of mine a decade ago, used to always say, once you change that split, once you give it, you can never take it back, right? And so that was something that we always focused on, which was, how do you give more, but outside of the split? How can we provide more value? How can we make larger investments into their growth of their business? And I'm so grateful that that's one of our core kind of like pillars.
It's just like with a seller, you got to ask the seller, you say, well, what's more important to you, how much I make or how much you make? And we're not talking about gross, we're talking about net, right? 100%. Like what matters more? And the way that I can help my team members make more is by allowing them to focus on what they're truly best at. What are they uniquely qualified to do? What are they born to do? And how do we get them in that zone where that's all they do? Lance Loken's a great example of this. Lance. And, Lance, when he was running his team, his agents, his listing agents were getting 10%. And, a lot of people say, well, why would I want to be a listing agent on the team? Look, I tried to steal one of his listing agents once, a long time ago. And I don't even know if Lance knows this, but I had this conversation. So it was a woman, and I said, "Well, God, 10%. What if I give you 25?" And I wasn't trying to literally steal her. I didn't have a team to put her on at that point in time in that area. But I just wanted to see, is it possible to pull one of his team members away? What would it take to pull one of his team members away? I want to see how loyal were they at 10%. And let me tell you something. She says, "Look, you don't understand. Like, I go to the office in the morning. I grab a stack of papers. It tells me where to go. I go to listing appointments.
That's as good as it gets.
I come back. I hand that off, and I'm done. I go home and I spend the rest of the night with my kids. That's my day.
As good as it gets.
And I make a solid six-figure income doing that. My team was the same way. So back on my team, I was doing 50 to 75 listings a month, right? And my day looked very much like that. I was able to build around me a team that would handle everything, so I didn't have to. All I had to do was make my 115 to 125 follow-up calls per day from my car, and then go get listings. Then my listing agents, they were each listing. I mean, a low producer on my team was 10 to 15 listings a month. A good producer on my team was 18 to 21 listings a month. Well, what were those guys doing? What were they doing that was so different than everybody else? Well, first of all, we had great brand recognition, right? We had 750 signs in the ground, 15% market share in Western Washington, particularly in Pierce County. But we also had TV, radio, right? So you couldn't be buying or selling in our area and not know who you are. So that helped. And I don't want to mislead anybody into thinking that you're going to be able to hit the same kind of numbers anytime soon. You've got to get to a certain scale to hit that, right? But what they did have was they didn't have to do anything. Like, for example, when they take a listing agent hands that listing off. They don't do the marketing for it. They don't. In fact, Austin's team, he doesn't even negotiate his own offers. He doesn't negotiate his own, when offers come in on the listings, he doesn't negotiate that stuff. When it's time for inspection negotiations, he doesn't negotiate that. He's got licensed staff members that's all awesome. They do all day, every day.
That's specialty. That's skill. That's how, like, the biggest blocker is the inspections. I see too many people that they get so bent out of shape over inspections, and it's like they're calling roofers because they said you need to replace the roof, and they're wasting. It's like, that is so inefficient. And I get it. Once again, not everyone's in a position yet to have the resources, but work your tail off so that you can afford to unlock the things that you don't like to do, right? And you will see your business just scale so quickly when you're actually doing things you like.
Absolutely. So let's take this a step further, Ryan. I want to ask you this. With you and your listing agents, are you also looking for investment opportunities as you're out listing houses?
Yeah. So that was the foundation of Fellow. That's how Fellow actually came about. I was always scared, me and Matt Wagner, he was like, I started on radio. He's like, you got to do the guaranteed offer. And I'm like, that's a bad idea. It just doesn't seem like it's our vibe. Like, I don't have the money to buy these houses. We ultimately did it. And, all of a sudden I finally, after a couple of years, actually got someone who like really pressed me to say, like, you need to buy this home, like, make me an offer. And I was like, that's not the way it works. It only works if I can't sell it. And they're like, make me an offer. I finally made them an offer, and they said, I'll take it. And I'm like, why would you take it? That's the dumbest move ever. Right? You can sell it for so much more money on market. And he's like, I want the offer. I don't want the headache, et cetera. So that all of a sudden that was 2019. That opened my mind up to where I got like all of a sudden like very like acquisition heavy. And like I was telling my like listing partners, every appointment you go on, if you think there's motivation there, I'd be happy to buy it. And I started to get like very, very like aggressive in wanting to buy homes, to the point where I actually stood up a separate company called Flash House. Flash House was buying about 15 to 20 homes a month. And where we were going direct to consumer, we completely insulated the young team so that the young team would say, Michael, I'm really excited to get you a cash offer on your home. Let me go to Flash House, a company that we work with, to see what that offer is. Right. Well, this is where the Fellow story came along. Was Flash House started to become pretty big in Northeast Ohio, and I started to see a lot of people in the young team's database going to flashhouse.com and requesting offers. I was getting upset. They didn't know that I owned Flash House, right? So here are people in my database, past clients of ours, leads that we bought, that are going to another company's website requesting a cash offer and cutting the young team out. And so I started to realize our database has no loyalty to us, right? So how do we stay in front of our database, and how do we make sure that if they want this type of option, that we can provide it, or we can take them to the third parties? And so that's really where the whole marketing engagement, database engagement came from. It actually came from more of I built a company that all of a sudden became a threat to my existing business, and it was cannibalizing some of our opportunities. And so I said, I need to jump in front of this. And that became a much bigger idea of the database engagement, finding sellers within your database, than the actual acquisition. So we sunset Flash House, which, I still buy.
So you don't even have Flash House anymore?
No, we still have Flash. I mean, I think if you go to flashhouse.com, it'll still say like, we want to buy your home, but it's one of those things. We completely sunsetted it. We built all this acquisition software that we sunsetted and just doubled down on the marketing component, the engagement component. But, I still own a bunch of rental properties from it. We probably flipped, I don't know, 350, 400 homes in the matter of 2-3 years. So, I mean, it's like we were buying.
Hold on. Okay, dude, permission to, I'm going to start coaching you in a second here. So I got to hear more about
I wish I held more of them.
That's my question is how many houses did you hold? That's literally where I'm going with this.
None. I have 20 doors right now. It's 18 doors. Trust me. Biggest mistake.
You're killing me.
Was 2019.
In Ohio, those would be worth today?
Probably we've seen double the assets I was buying. We've probably double and at least double, at a minimum of doubled. The challenge was, though, from the way I structured the debt, I had a $25 million facility. And so I was basically layering in what is considered like kind of primary debt with mezzanine debt. So it's like I wasn't using any of my own money. So we were turning over, I said buying 15 plus homes a month. So we had to be very, from a debt management or a capital management standpoint, we had to be very strategic on like making sure money was going out and we were selling them so money was coming back in. Now, what I should have done was, it all worked out because I was using all the profits to build software for Fellow. So it's kind of like I ended up building something else with it. But what I should have done was, if I wasn't building software, was take all the profit, reinvest that into actually distributing our own money so I didn't have to use other people, so that I ultimately could hold some of the assets. But yeah, I definitely, when I look at my like net wealth right now versus what the amount of properties that we acquired and where we acquired them at, and also with the appreciation we've seen out here, it stings a little bit.
Okay, so here's the question I got to ask you. What's it going to take to, like, if I said, hey, I put a gun to your head, you have to design a system today that will ensure that you buy at least one house that you hold every single month for 2025.
Yeah.
How you
it would be easy. I mean, it would be super easy. First, what I would do is, once again, we have a database full of homeowners. Identify the homeowners that have been in their home the longest amount of time, that have the most amount of equity, right? And just start identifying who of them, having conversations, who prioritizes speed and convenience versus net dollars, right? And so a marketing campaign that goes out saying, if you're looking for the easiest way to sell your home, I'd love to talk to you about buying it off market. And literally, that's how easy it is. And I know people are probably like, well, it can't be that easy. No, it is literally that easy. I've also built a muscle of a database of homeowners that have been marketing and engaged with a lot of our messaging. So being a little bit more segmented and strategic, but, and then just obviously make the key with when it comes to acquisitions are you make your money on the buy, not on the sell or on the hold, right? So you have to be very disciplined, in making sure that you're purchasing the right asset in the right location. We always focused on the buy. That was more important to us, making sure that like it met our criteria. We never bent. We never, we had our standards. We had our economics of a deal where it made sense and we weren't willing to bend. I'd say probably 75% of the time the seller would bend to where we needed to be, right? And then the 25%, we just walk away. It would be a listing opportunity for the young team to sell traditionally, but it was like we were very firm in this is what the economics are. This is where it makes sense. And if not, we'd love to talk to you about more of a traditional approach.
Dude, you and I offline need to have a conversation. This is my work. So I see real estate sales as simply a capital generation platform so you can buy and hold real estate.
100%.
And, buying and holding real estate is where we've built our wealth, and it's where, I don't have to work today, not because I sold billions of houses, but because I own a lot of homes. And so I'm on a mission right now to help as many people as I can to do that. I'm thinking about my great grandkids at this point. Not that I have any yet. I don't even have grandkids yet, just to be clear. I'm 52 though, so it's coming soon. But that said, I look at one of my responsibilities in life is, okay, if I want there to be opportunity for my great grandkids, we need a middle class. And for there to be a middle class, guess what? We got to teach people how to do this, because if we don't get people doing this, then Blackstone's going to own it all, right? 100%. Like it's going to be Vanguard, it's going to be Blackstone, it's going to be all the
Brookfield, et cetera. Yeah,
all of them. Yeah, I mean they're going to own it all, and so we have to make sure, because once they own something, it's never, ever, ever, ever coming back on the market. That's going to be a rental forever. They've made it very clear that they want to create a nation of renters and we're going to be happy with it, right? No, we're not going to be happy with it. The American dream is fundamental to the American dream is not only home ownership, but rental property ownership. Those are fundamental keystones to achieving the American dream. And they make it so much easier. I mean, 90% of all millionaires made their money in real estate. And so anyway, I'm saying this simply because I think to myself, Ryan, you had an amazing engine built there. And instead of mothballing the engine, I think one of the conversations I want to have with you, I'm going to start coaching one of these days soon. And that's what you and I are going to work on. We're going to work on how do we revive that engine in a way that doesn't cannibalize young team and that allows you not opportunities to flip as active income, right? We don't care about active income. Passive income.
Well, in real quick, just before we wrap, it's one of those things that I genuinely feel that muscle made us a better real estate team, right? Like the amount of listing opportunities we had generated from it was massive. The amount of people that we helped was massive. And I agree 100%. Like I was just talking, like, this is the most beautiful thing. I was talking to my barber the other day, getting a haircut. Guy's probably 34 years old. He bought his first house for $100,000 about 8 years ago. He put down 3%. That house appreciated by about 135, I think he said. He sold it. He put down 10% on a 300, he had 2 kids, moved to a good school district. He put down 10% on a $330,000 house. Okay. So now he lives in a $300,000 house. He was just telling me, he's like, I cannot believe this. The home right around the corner from me, exact same house, just sold for $500,000. Right. And he's like, I only owe like $290 on my mortgage right now. And he's like, I'm not planning on selling anytime soon, but he's like, who would have thunk? Like, I'm a barber. I bought a $100,000 house by putting 3% down. That saw appreciation. And I took that equity and rolled it into a bigger house that provided, something better for my family. And now I have all this equity in my house. And he's like, I'm not planning on doing anything with it, but like, it's and we could start to get, you could refi and invest that into other real estate and, start expanding your portfolio. That was the question I had.
Did he keep the first one?
He didn't keep it. He sold it. And he used the proceeds for the down payment. Trust me, I totally get it. But it's just, I think it's where we live. What's amazing about this country is how incredible is that? Like, he's not a high net wealth earner, but like still he is creating wealth, long-term wealth for himself by making that investment into real estate. And to your point about, Invitation Homes and, BlackRock and all these other companies gobbling up, the first time home buyer is probably not going to be a buyer until they're 35 nowadays. It used to be in your mid 20s, you late 20s. You're priced out of the market. They've just gobbled up so much of it, so but I do agree. Like, I wish I would have held more, but you can't go back and you can only go forward,
Well, here's the thing, you think, to your point, the average 401k at retirement is $242,000 or $243,000, I believe. And the average homeowner at retirement has over $300,000 equity in their home by accident. And yet here they were focused on this 401k. If instead of focusing on a 401k that had taken the same amount of money that they put in their 401k and just use it for down payment on rental properties and just built, even like you said, house hacking their way up, right? If they would have first started with a 3% owner occupied, move, rent the first one out, get the next one, and just keep doing that, how much further would they be? So that being said, Ryan, I always enjoy our conversations. I feel like man. A lot more time. We need to do a longer one of these next time.
Yeah.
And I want to be respectful of your time. But before I let you go, a couple of things. Number one, you and I need to do a call about you and your rental portfolio and building that up. The other thing is, give us the 3 things, like just the top 3 things that you think that an agent can do right now, rapid fire, no long discourse. Just what are the 3 things they can do right now to get more listings and to get more profitable with their business?
Yeah. 3 biggest things is, I would say, one is just a overall generalization. You need to get uncomfortable. You need to challenge yourself, right? I know everyone's going to start going tactical, but like before we even go tactical, you need to accept the fact that it's not going to be easy. You need to get uncomfortable. You need to do hard things. The second thing I would say is you need to build a database of as many homeowners as possible. You need to become obsessed with building a database of homeowners. The more homeowners you talk to, the more they need to go into your database. You need to just become obsessed every week of adding more and more homeowners into to your database. And then lastly, I would say you need to be comfortable getting past that second question that we talked about and asking that hard question of, if there's an opportunity that makes financial sense, would you be open to looking at an offer? And you should be saying that to every single homeowner you've talked to. Michael, how you been? Long time. I know it's been some time. Look, the market's so hot. If there was an opportunity to sell your home, even if it was off market and it made financial sense, would you be open to looking at an offer? You're at a cocktail party, you're at coffee, you're at wherever, you run into people at school. Look, you live in one of the hottest communities. If there was an opportunity to sell your home, even if it was off market and it made financial sense, would you be open to looking at an offer? You should be having that same talk track with every single one of those homeowners. You will be shocked at how many people say, yeah, I'd be open to looking at it. And it opens up this whole world of conversation. And before you know it, you have this massive pipeline of actual real opportunities that convert into listings.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I love it. Ryan, if people want to get a hold of you, how would they reach you?
Super easy, Ryan at highfellow.com, or find me on all the great social channels. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. Let's be friends and connect.
Dude, I love it. Seriously, man. I appreciate you taking the time to be on here. Any parting thoughts
before
we wrap it up?
No, we are so aligned on business and just everything. I enjoy these conversations so much, and the Club Wealth community is just so fortunate to have you and a thought leader. And it's like every time there are very few that think the way you do, and I just really appreciate it.
That's nice for you to say that. I appreciate that a lot. Well, good stuff, guys. If you haven't checked it out already, you need to also check out Fellow. I'm just telling you, there's very little software that I would ever endorse out there. Fellow is one of them. If you go to clubwealth.com/FELLO, clubwealth.com/FELLO, Ryan's got a special deal there for you. And I'll tell you right now, the #1 listing agent in the country is using it. Maybe you should too. All right, Ryan, thank you so much. Have an awesome day, everybody. We will
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
See ya.
Club Wealth is the only coaching company on the planet that will literally guarantee that you will double your income or make at least an extra $100,000 your first year coaching with us, or we will give you 100% of your investment back. Click the link below, sign up for the appropriate tier level, and let's get you a strategy session today. And I promise you, I 100% guarantee you, promise you that you will walk away with a heart full of gratitude for the time that we took for you, because you got so much value out of that call. Schedule your strategy session today. I promise you'll be glad you did.